Alright, so this is the next phase. Had the footer poured last time. I've added a cinder block and a 4.5 inch block. Well, 3.5. It's a 4 by 16. So both blocks, you got to add a barrier to keep the concrete absorbs the moisture, so you don't want that coming into the wood. I've got a double barrier here, so you usually put either flashing and tar paper, or just tar paper, one or the other, at least tar paper. So I got a piece of tar paper and 2 treated 2x6s. Usually buy 2x8s, but hardware store was totally out of x8 lumber. So that's what it looks like. I had to just shim it best I could. When you're not framing and having to deal with what you got, you just got to kind of make it work. It's already tied into the house, so it's structurally supporting. I did build a very small access hole. Like I said, I have no idea why anybody'd ever get into this, but if it needed to, a small person could fit through there. And then the same thing over here. So now we will frame up the walls. Normally you lay your subfloor down, but I'm not going to. I'm going to frame directly on top of this. Pull these columns out, frame it up, and get the building inspection done. Then I will lay the subfloor down inside this area. So the outside wall stud will go right on top of this triple beam, and then right through here, right over this frame. So let me get that done and I'll come back to you. Alright, let me catch you up on where we're at. We've got the Biz Queen down. That's 5mm plastic. Usually use black, but color's kind of irrelevant. I've started framing, and when you're stick framing or framing around an existing structure, you've got to kind of go with whatever's there. So stick framing especially, and it's best to stick frame for stuff like this. And this is a perfect example. So over here, I wanted to put this 2x4 directly on top of that rafter, since it's tied into the house, sitting on the block. But I can't do that because you've got to have enough room for your OSB, which is 7/16, and your house wrap, to make sure that your siding is going to be even though there's a board here. It can be a little off, but it needs to be visually about the same. So I had to space it out 7/16 all the way around, which puts it flush on the inside and makes it right here. But that threw my bottom off. I had already nailed this into the rafter. So what I'm going to have to do, look underneath here, is I'll have to get another 2x8 to put underneath there and brace this up, because right now the majority of this board is sitting on this 2x4, which is nailed into the rafter, but I need more support, otherwise this wall will start bending. And these were all 7 3/8, 107 3/8 I should say. So you nail them in on both sides and then from an angle, and they are off, but I'll fix that when I put the subfloor and everything in. So that was off. This side over here is not even level. So I put in, I thought it was 107, which was a 3/8 drop, but when I put a level on that header up there, it slants this way by, there's probably an inch and a half drop through there, which makes no sense whatsoever. But I got to remember that when I'm framing. I don't want to be, I've got to frame this out like I did there to pull the post out, but I want to put the frame boards in and keep it somewhat level. I can raise it up a little bit because I'll need to take the weight off this load bearing post here to get it out, but I need to keep it even with what it is now. Even if it's off, I need to remain with whatever it is. If you go to try to straighten it out, sometimes you'll cause other things to start snapping and popping. So you just gotta kind of watch that when you're framing stuff around an existing structure. You can fudge some stuff and kind of mix. Usually the best thing is to kind of split the difference, which is what I tried to do here. But it is a challenge working with an existing structure and framing around it. So I'm going to continue putting these in. I'll have to measure, like I said, since it drops that drastically, I'll have to measure each rafter or each wall stud, because each one's going to be a different measurement. And then I'll pull this post out. So I've got both load-bearing posts out. My Hardy backer saw petered out on me, so I got to come back and finish cutting this. And then I found out that the rafters run this way, and that screw right there is the rafter. Right here's where I got to be in order to be level and be on the other side of that window. So what I'm going to have to do is crawl up in the attic and splice some more rafters to this rafter. That way that is actually resting on a rafter. Right now all it's doing is pushing against that board up there, which is luckily it's pretty close to a rafter, so it's helping somewhat. But it would have been better if the rafters would have ran this way, but that's another one of those deals. When you're framing around something and having to work around obstacles, you got to do what you got to do. So I got to finish cutting this. Put another rafter here, or not rafter, stud. I've just got this boxed in. All I was doing today was trying to get the walls framed, that way I could pull the load-bearing post out. So this will carry the load until I get back over here to finish framing. So I've got to cut this with my Hardy saw and then frame this out. Which is going to be kind of funky, but that's just part of it. So I'll have to frame around that, and then put some blocking in here. I've got to put another 2x8 in here to help carry that load. That's just temporary. I've got the Biz Queen down, and then I'm going to have to come back in and put in rolled insulation in here prior to setting the subfloor in, because there's no way I'll get underneath here. There's not an access hole to get underneath this deck, so you have to be a little bitty guy to get in there. So that's it. That's got it framed. I still got to rip all this off because this is getting shiplap. There's going to be a huge wall unit over here. That door is going to be here. And like I said, I still got to frame this out. I only got one stud left anyway, so I don't have enough to finish framing it. But I got a call. I got to go check on something before I wrap the day up. So see y'all later.